Mr. Hanna.
Mr. Szabo, it's not hard to imagine that you can approve things in 90 days when actually the clock almost never starts ticking because it's so difficult to get to that 90-day point. And it's easy to understand that grants are easier than loans that are backed by security. It's easy to give money away, and I'm sure there's plenty of people who will take it. But as a practical matter, these are private companies that have arguably supply a public good. And in this environment, it's going to be increasingly difficult to justify an out-and-out grant, even though it's nice to talk about. And the fact that these companies have to pay such enormous amounts of money relative to their cash flow and their worth to get to these loans, I mean, you know so much more about this than any of us because you've dealt with it directly. What are those things that cause in the RIF loans not to be used? Why would you expect someone to pay a lot of upfront money for a loan that may never happen? And why not clean up that process rather than do anything else first? Because it sounds like, you know, you've got money to give, we've got money to loan, but we've made a process that is a catch-22. So with all due respect, what would you do if you were that bank?
Yeah, I think we need to really do all of the above. As I said before, there are certain short lines that provide important service but are never going to be able to qualify for a loan. And so in those cases where there's clear public benefits, I do believe that grants are important. The second thing that we can do, and we're doing now, is to help applicants better understand up front, you know, what's going to be required of them so we can make sure we have that complete application much more quickly and get them through the process that much more quickly. But third, I think as we get into reauthorization, we do have to have a conversation on those things statutorily that we might be able to do to help, in particular, the small railroads, the short lines, get through the process. I know, you know, Mr. Malanaphy from APTA had some suggestions talking about some of the ways that TIFIA works, and, you know, perhaps we need to explore some of the approaches in TIFIA and see if it may apply to RIF, particularly if we're talking about small loans. The big boys can get through the process. The Class 1s can get through. We put Kansas City Southern through on a loan in record time. But they're the ones that less need the program. They have other financing options that work for them. The challenge really is meeting the needs of the small Class 2s and Class 3s.
So just directly then, is it in any way realistic, this whole RIF program? I mean, is there anything about it that's workable in the real world? And is it in any way practical to charge somebody hundreds of thousands of dollars, potentially, for a loan they may never see?
Yeah. There are those that have used the program and used it well and gotten through the process in a timely manner. I'm talking about Class 2s now. You know, a couple of railroads up in Iowa that have used the program several times. And again, you know, they understand what the process is, what it takes to get through it, and they've been able to use it successfully. They're happy borrowers, and they come back. So I think part of our goal is to make sure that we can get all the mom and pops to that place, so at least if they qualify for a loan, they can expeditiously get through the process.
What are the credit worthiness standards that you use? Because it sounds like most of these companies are not capable of doing this without this type of loan. So isn't that also a catch-22? And what have you seen in? It's
a challenge, but certainly you expect me to make sure that when I make a loan, that there's the statutorily required finding of repayability. And, you know, the last thing I want to do is be the administrator sitting here in front of this committee talking about defaults. And so, you know, we have to balance every day on these loans trying to get capital to the railroads that need them while also protecting the taxpayers of America.
So that basically we've established a system of loans that doesn't work, to a bureaucracy that has a responsibility that by meeting it, it almost guarantees that the system fails. Is it fair to say then that a lot of these smaller railroads are just never going to be viable in the sense that they meet these loans, but yet we need to have a bigger conversation about the overall public good of what they do to decide whether or not we're
No, I think the record shows that there are several short-line railroads that can and do, in fact, use this program, use it successfully, and are very, very pleased with the results. Now, certainly there's another pool that have challenges, and so, you know, we need to take a look at how we help them with all of those challenges. I believe that there are many more short lines that we can help successfully get through the program in a timely manner, but there are also those that we've identified that are never going to, you know, achieve that repayability requirement. And so if the service is deemed to have sufficient public benefits, grants are appropriate.
Thank you.